Welcome to another episode of the Steal a Moment podcast with me, your host, Michael LeBlanc. It's great to be back for episode 3 of season 2 with the band Redamancy. Bella and Andres and I sit down and talk about how they got their start, as well as where they're headed for 2022. Excited to potentially announce some work with them as well with my band Gunpowder Empire, which you can check out in the description below, along with all the links you'll need for Bella, Andres, and Redamancy. Also, if you guys get a chance and you want something else to listen to, go ahead and check out my other podcast with Nikki Misery from New Year's Day and Mickett Woodle from Rivals. That was called This Was a Star Wars Podcast. We've been on a little bit of hiatus, but we'll be back next week with a new episode of The Fifth Element. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe anywhere here. All of the links you'll need are in the description below. And if you're listening to this, please rate and review on whatever podcast network you listen to. With all that being said, Bella, Andres, and I would like to steal a moment. Welcome to another episode of Steal a Moment. I'm Michael LeBlanc. With me today, we have Andres and Bella from Redamancy, local Denver band. I think we've actually potentially either played with you or at least seen you guys a few times over the years in the different projects. We have some mutual contacts, which is nice. I used to be in Red Tide Rising with Andrew Whiteman. Yeah, and then I also recorded at the Keep as well, which is definitely a fun place to record and get stuff done. Those guys are great over there. So tell me a little bit about how you guys began and where you guys are headed in 2022.
Is that you looking at me, Andreas?
Yep.
Well, we began in college, actually. We met in a singer-songwriter ensemble. So it was a class where you kind of would bring in original songs, and we all had stuff that we were writing. And then at the end, kind of the end of each semester, you would essentially form a house band with the other members of this class. And in my specific house band, I had Andreas playing, and at that time, kind of two other really awesome musicians. And we essentially just really vibed on stage, and I, was really impressed by his musicianship and felt that, I had been a solo singer-songwriter essentially since I was 13 years old and grew up really loving rock music, and was kind of at a point where that was something I really wanted to dive into and explore. So I essentially asked, hey, do you want to be in a band with me? Like, the songs that we did were really cool, and I think it would be cool if we would write more. And that was essentially how it all started. And actually, the very first song that we ever performed together in that class was Burn, which is the very first song we ever ended up releasing as a band. So it all kind of started there. And then since then, we've now released 2 EPs and are kind of working on obviously more, but I think our next big step might be an album. Not gonna say that can be set in stone, but that idea has been thrown around quite a bit over the past few months. So
got a lot of new material. So
yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's really important. Like, knowing that you guys already had you knew how to work together. I think that's really huge, especially in a band dynamic. Being in a kind of a duo myself right now, because it's just you two right now, and then bringing in other musicians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I totally understand how that feels. Like, you guys do the majority of the work, and then you'll bring in a couple people to help with the different instruments that are needed to fill in those roles. Andres, you're a bassist, right?
I sure am, yes.
Yes, we're all the cool ones. Bass players unite. Um, uh, what got you into playing bass? Was there something in particular? Like, did you start as a bassist, or I always ask this question because I'm always curious.
No, tale as old as time. I definitely started as a guitar player. And then actually for a different band pre-Redamancy, it was started as a singer-songwriter duo. They were called Slightly Overdressed. And even though I was a competent guitar player, we were very good friends and they wanted me to be a part of the project, but the guy already played guitar. So he said, would you be willing to play bass? And I said, sure. Like, I've never really played bass before. And, I just really took to it. It satisfied a lot of things that guitar didn't for me. And as soon as I sort of dove into bass, then gigs just opened up everywhere. Everyone needs a bass player. So, and that's how Redamancy happened as
then
well.
I stole him.
You stole him.
All right.
I mean, that's kind of how it works out. I'm one of the weird ones. I started out as a bassist, and like I've always wanted to be a bassist. My brother played guitar for like 6 months, but in that 6-month time frame, I was like, "We're gonna be Van Halen. Like this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna play bass." And then I kind of just stuck with it because I really enjoyed the way, like the instrument's different, and people don't really see that very often. So.
No, they see it as this is a big guitar with less strings, and it it really is a whole other beast there. So, and I really fell in love with it, and that's my main thing. I play guitar when I need to now when we do acoustic shows and stuff, but I'm a bass player at heart now, fully converted.
Well, welcome to the family. We love you. I'm also the lead singer of my current project as well. So that's the weird conundrum of music as well. What do you think is like the big part, Bella, specifically about being in this genre, which is becoming more female dominated as the years progress? How does it feel to kind of be in a massive scene in Denver that has a lot of really strong female vocalists like Hannah Maddox and God, why do I always forget? I want to call him Scarlet Canary because when I was in Scarlet Canary at the time. Heartsick Heroines, you have Sharon, you have Karina in Purge the Heretics in the more the metal heavy genre. How does it feel to kind of be in that crowd right now?
I love it, and I love that that the genre is kind of growing and blossoming and accepting more of these female vocals. I mean, I grew up listening to like Amy Lee with Evanescence and Flyleaf, and then of course like all of the other greats. But those were kind of like the female artists that I listened to that were in more of like the rock genre, along with like of course Pat Benatar and Heart. But other than that, there wasn't a ton of it. And now I feel like there is this community of really amazing vocalists who are just, and they're also friendly too, and just really, really willing to support one another. And I think especially, having, getting our start here in Denver, I just think this community is really special because it's not, it's a very collaborative community and it's very welcoming, as opposed to, if you were to go to LA where everything's really cutthroat and you don't necessarily know if, the people you're working with genuinely have your back. I feel like here they do. And yeah, it's been really great and just really awesome to have that support and companionship and camaraderie, especially as we've grown. Because like I said, I've grown up with this love of rock and it's always been something I listened to. But over the past 3 years, is really when I started performing and writing. And it's been an incredibly empowering thing for me, both as a musician, but also just as an audience member and a member of the community, to see these other incredible artists doing the same thing. It's just continuously inspiring and encouraging. And yeah, it's just been great. I really love it.
I agree. And I think it's interesting. The other primary podcast that I work on is called This Was a Star Wars Podcast. It's a nerd-centric podcast with two other musicians who are both guitar players in female-fronted rock bands. So it's really cool to like see how much it's grown and get a chance to talk to their lead singers about the process, as well as how the like bands like Flyleaf, bands like Evanescence, even Paramore, kind of bringing out that like we can play this style of music too. It doesn't have to stay in the what it was 30 years ago. Pat Benatar also like a huge reference to push rock into the mainstream for female front artists. She is amazing. I love Pat Benatar. I might have had a little crush on Pat Benatar growing up. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, me too. For sure. I read her autobiography and I was just like, oh, okay.
Goals. It's also kind of interesting. You mentioned how collaborative Denver music is. I tend to talk about this a lot with Denver artists who I've had on the show, that it feels like a community more so than a competition. I know that I can call people in different realms of this world of the Denver music scene, and they'll come help, and they'll give us an opportunity. One of our mutual connections, Andrew Whiteman, is a big one. Like he's come in and helped. He played drums on a cover for us a few months back. I've also worked with him for years on that. He's done a lot of sound mixing for us. I believe he's done some for you guys as well.
Yeah, he mixed our EP release show. We brought him down and he mixed it live. So he does a great job.
Yeah. How does that feel? Like I've also worked with the Keep as well. Do you feel like that's a big part of why Denver music is starting to grow and starting to kind of get a little further out there, is that we're working together to make the scene better?
For sure.
I think so. Yeah. And there's lots of, there's lots of collaboration between artists, and then you just get new projects forming left and right, and each project sort of pushes the envelope a little further, and then you get collaboration between those projects, and it's just this sort of chain reaction of Denver bands. It would be impossible to know all the bands in Denver, because it's a huge explosion, and there's so many great musicians to work with, and everyone is so willing to help everyone else out, and everyone loves doing collaborations and featuring on tracks or that sort of stuff. And I think that's one of Denver's big strengths for sure.
How did you get involved with the Keep, Andres? I'm curious. I've worked with Jeff before. I've worked with Nick before. I'm sure we've probably crossed paths as well once or twice. But how did you get involved working with Jeff and those guys there?
So I was in school for audio production at CU Denver, and through some mutual connections, and two of my ex-roommates actually interned there during college, and then I interned there, and I just really hit it off with them. I did a year of interning, and I guess they must have liked me,
A little bit.
Yeah, so it's been great. Now a couple years out from that, and things are going really well. It feels great to be part of a small business like that, because it really just is Jeff and Nick, and so it feels very special for me to have joined that fold a little bit. And it's also good signs, because there's work to be had, and there's everyone wants to record, and that's amazing. It means the music scene is thriving and people are ready to come in, and my network is constantly expanding through that, and also it helps that having a larger network to draw in for the Keep, and I think it just works for our brand as a whole.
Definitely. And I think that's the most important piece to take away from that part is networking and building those connections. I feel like that's the growth of any project. You want to build that network so that if you are ready to say hit the road, you go and tour, you have people in other cities who are like, yeah, we got a show this night, jump on the bill with us and we'll make a night of it. And it helps build that brand bigger and wider and move forward. So let's talk a little bit about Revival, because I listened to it and I've watched the videos. I've gone through and I've really felt like I've got myself immersed in it. Is there a story behind the whole record? Is it just 6 individual songs? Like how does it 5? I was right the first time.
Essentially, it is 6 individual songs, but they were all written during like a very significant part of our lives. So they're kind of just ended up naturally being this like underlying theme that's kind of laced through all of them, which is, I mean, honestly, sorry, my cats are fighting. I might have to there they go. But there's this underlying theme laced through of just kind of where we were at in life. And it's essentially why the EP is called what it is, Revival, because it was a revival of, I guess, Redamancy as a whole. It was our second EP. Our first one was kind of like my songs that I had, asked Andreas and some other musicians to kind of like put their spin on. And then so it was a slightly less collaborative versus Revival was incredibly collaborative, and we wrote all of the songs together. And it was during this time where, we had just graduated from college, like there was all of this change happening. Halfway through, recording, the pandemic hit. And so I think all of that change interlaced with kind of like heartbreak and our own journeys is essentially what created the EP. So even though it started as, writing the individual tracks, we did have that kind of foundation that we were going off of. And then as we were writing it, we had these conversations of like, well, we want all of these songs at their root to just feel incredibly empowering, even though we were going through this kind of tumultuous time where it felt like there was a lot of change and it, potentially could have been easy to spiral into a different sort of mental state. We wanted to create this energy that was really palpable and felt positive at the end of the day, even when you're dealing with subject matter that might not necessarily be. I think we really wanted all of those songs to have that feeling behind them. And so that was essentially, I think, what tied it all together at the end of the day for us, and really helped make the EP what it is.
Nice. I always like hearing about that process. And you guys write collaboratively, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's another important aspect too to writing. I feel like some bands I know have people who do their roles, like they hold their specific roles and it works for them. But sometimes I feel like, especially as a vocalist, if I get great input from my guitarist, who's the other member of Gunpowder Empire, when we are working on lyrics, it's a collaborative effort. I'll come in with a skeleton and he'll be like, what if we took this part, put it here, and change this line here? Like I'm looking for that kind of conversation, especially when it's something as collaborative as music can be. I'm sure you guys have a tight enough relationship where you can be brutally honest with each other, where if something sucks, you're gonna be like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, a few of these songs off of Revival were rewritten. So we'd had sort of the instruments and the form of the song laid out. We recorded drums back in 2018. And then over the course of the pandemic, we rewrote the entire top line to these songs like a couple times over.
Yeah.
So,
some of them like literally 4 or 5 times. Complete redos, which, you know, I guess is the danger of like having that much time to just sit with something, but also we're super happy with the end product. Even though it was incredibly frustrating, we call those writing sessions like we're entering the bog, and just everything feels like super heavy, and like you don't know what you're doing, like you can't see, you're just kind of like wading through blind, and you know, half the time it's like we have no idea if the song is even going to be done because it just doesn't want to be finished. And then we're like, okay, well, if the song isn't, you know, also helping to write itself, there's probably something that needs to change. Right. So it's a combination of, us being really open and honest with each other, being like, hey, this isn't working. But also I think, in a way, songs also kind of will tell you that, of like, you know, if fundamentally something's not working, then it's just hard to write them. And so we don't really fight that, or we try not to. I mean, it's hard. And if there are lyrics or segments we really love, we'll do our best to repurpose them either within that song itself, or even like take those lyrics or instrumental sections and then save them, and put them in, you know, future projects, which has also kind of happened as well.
You know, and I think that's a big piece of advice that any musician should take away is don't fight the song. I can think of countless times where I've been in a writing session and we will get to a part where like something isn't working. Why isn't this working? What the fuck am I supposed to do? and then you put it away. You just put it away.
Yeah.
And then come back to it. One of the last songs we released is a song called Through Bloodshot Eyes. And when we were writing that song, like pieces came together, but like it just didn't feel right. We finally like shelved it after a month of trying to like force it. And when we came back, like the first riff came, and then the next riff came, and then the lyrics kind of started to fill in. And then we were like, we feel good enough to take it to studio. And we took it to studio, and we work with Taylor Hahn at Hahn Audio.
Nice.
And Taylor was like, what if we took this part and put it here? And the entire song, like he moved one piece and it locked everything in. Mm-hmm. It's just weird how that happens sometimes with songs. Like you find one piece that's just happens to be in the wrong place. Like you put a pre-chorus here instead of here, and all of a sudden the song is now writing itself.
Right.
Well, we've noticed a pretty strong pattern with at least me and my songwriting. Well, I'll write something that I think is a chorus, and it almost always ends up being the pre-chorus at the end. It doesn't really work as a chorus. But recently, it's actually, we for some reason have just been really cranking out some choruses, which is interesting because that, you know, is normally, for me at least, the hardest segment of the song to write. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. But we'll do that where we'll kind of like pick parts of the arrangement and play with it and see if they work better in certain areas of the song. And a lot of times, you know, they do, and then it's kind of like, okay, well then now what comes next?
Right.
Okay, so I'm curious, what do you guys enjoy doing outside of the realm of music? Like what are some of the things you do besides the music life? And every time I've asked a musician this question, most of them have the same three answers, and I'm very curious to see if they fit into your realm as well.
Oh, interesting. Bella, you want to go first?
Well, okay, so listen, I've lived in Colorado my whole life. I'm almost 25 years old. I've never learned how to ski until this year. So I've been skiing a lot, and it's been really fun. I've really been enjoying that. But I also, like, outside of music, I really enjoy photography and you know, graphic design and creative things like that. But most of the time I also just end up at home kind of with my cats and hanging out. The pandemic really instilled that in me, so I haven't quite shaken that yet. But yeah, I mean, I try to stay creative as much as possible, but it is hard because, you know, even when you're not writing music, you're constantly thinking about it. And in pre-pandemic times, I would say, I was going to shows like almost, maybe like 5 nights a week, which isn't necessarily the case anymore. But yeah, I really just try to keep myself busy with creative endeavors. And then skiing has been big for me this year. It's been a lot of fun. Although Andreas and I still need to go together.
Yeah, I also like to ski, but other than that, it's kind of hard, between engineering at the Keep and Redamancy. That's 2 full-time jobs right there. So what is a hobby,
Yeah, okay. So you guys actually were outside the realm of both. So fantastic. A lot of them work out a ton.
Oh, no.
Like they're like, if I'm not one of the guys that the drummer for a band called Noia out in Sweden, he was like, if I'm not playing drums, I'm working out in our CrossFit gym, and I'm a trainer there as well. I was like, oh wow. And then a lot of them were like, I just had like a day job working as like a coder or just doing something else. And then almost all of them were like, well, I just eat, sleep, and drink music. So like I'll sit there and if I'm not playing guitar, I'm like deep in my head. So then I'll just pick up a guitar and start playing. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's about right.
Yeah. Both of our day jobs are also music because I teach.
Okay.
And then Andreas works at the Keep, so it is kind of eat, sleep, breathe. Also.
Okay. Nice. But, Andreas, are you a native as well? Are you a native Coloradan as well?
Yep.
Yes. We got to stand together. Okay. We're all that's left.
I know, it's really like becoming a rare thing to be Colorado native. It's very interesting.
I'm actually marrying a Michigander by way of Canada, and then she came here. So so like a little world travel. It's nice. It works. But she's been here for over a decade, so I feel like it's safe.
Right.
Like if it's like pre 2014, I feel like they pre-boom, you're native, you're fine, you're good.
Fully into the
It's interesting. I skied when I was like up until I was like 14, and then I just stopped. Like I stopped. I don't know why. I got busy, maybe. I don't know. Like just started figuring out things. Where are your favorite places to go right now? Like what are the hot spots if you want to find Bella and Andres on the skis, on the slopes?
I enjoy Keystone a lot. I actually just went to Crested Butte last weekend though, and that was awesome. They have kind of the most diverse terrain that I've been on. There's something for everyone. So that was fun. It's a little bit of a ways out though. And then I haven't explored like the back mountains of Breck, but I think that's kind of like next on my list. Okay. Andreas is a much more seasoned skier than I am, so he probably has better advice. I'm still sticking to like the blues. So
yeah, this year I've only been to Keystone so far, just because it's been day trips, and that's sort of the closest one. A lot of people hate me for this, but I love to ski Vail.
Well, you grew up there.
Yeah, I grew up outside of Vail, so that's sort of home base for me almost. I would love to get back to Crested Butte. I've skied there once 2 years ago, and that was phenomenal. So
nice. We spend a lot of time in Beaver Creek. I haven't skied there, but they have a ski in, ski out condo there that we can go to. So
I'll be there in a couple weeks, so we'll see how that
goes. Nice. We're gonna be up there at the end of March, just hanging out. I'm gonna be hanging out. She's gonna be skiing. I've considered taking it back up again, but I haven't yet. It's on my list of things to do, which is a very extensive list.
Oh yeah.
So what's the plan for 2022 for you guys? Are you I know you said you talked about a potential album, which is a great tease. I love having the tease. But is there like plans for more shows? I know you guys did a show for the Marshall Wildfires and a couple other, looks like a couple acoustic gigs and some smaller shows. You guys have plans for maybe tours in 2022 or anything like that?
Probably not leaving for a large tour. We do have some cool stuff in the works that we can't announce yet. But definitely,
The
follow us on the socials.
Yeah.
To be ready for that information, because lots of cool stuff. We are so busy this year.
Yeah, cool stuff and new stuff that is, kind of brand new to us as a band, which is very exciting.
Okay.
We've been doing this for almost 4 years now, so we might be shaking it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But like all those really weird TikTok dances and stuff like that. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, I don't think you want to see me attempt that.
We're trying to stay away from the TikTok dances.
Yeah.
Yes, me too. Don't worry, me too.
I'm still trying to figure out TikTok. It's like an enigma to me. I need to I have a sister who's very into it, so maybe we'll enlist her help at some point.
Yeah, I've tried it for the other podcast. I just don't know how to feed the algorithm yet. I'm also kind of anti-social media in a lot of ways, unfortunately.
It's kind of a weird world to live in.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I think as musicians it's difficult as well, because I don't know, I'm so used to wanting to go to shows and promote the project and play shows and promote the project by doing it versus having to put up videos on social media or post as often as possible on Instagram, and it's a different world now musically with issues the things we find out about Spotify and the way that music is consumed now. It seems like it's even harder for smaller projects to even really be able to grow and produce and find ways to do that. How are you guys as a project coming out of Denver trying to kind of combat that side of things? What are you doing to kind of push yourself forward?
Well, we're not the biggest fans of social media either, but we're trying to play the game as best as possible.
Yeah, we kind of, for a while, it was kind of one or the other was very invested and involved in the social media accounts, but then that just became a rabbit hole of succumbing to that really intense social media world. So I think we've actually been doing a pretty good job of splitting the responsibility there. We'll have weekly business meetings that are essentially specifically for socials and social plans, and I think that's been really helpful. But I mean, the biggest thing is just hard to keep up with the algorithms, and I think that's kind of, it takes a lot of our time and energy. It's just okay, what's performing the best right now? Is it reels? Is it stories? Is it IGTV? Is it posts? Do we get on Facebook for a little bit? Do we make a TikTok? It's kind of there's so many options. So it's a little bit trial by error at this point. And sometimes we get hits and sometimes you get misses, but we are we've been really developing our branding a lot lately, which I think has been really awesome and kind of a key to setting that foundation. We've been working with Elias, who is at Dogged Line Design Supply is his company, and he's been phenomenal with helping us kind of set that foundation as well. So that's been a huge part of our socials as well, just kind of updating everything with the new EP and kind of the slightly new direction that we're heading in. But yeah, socials are they're hard for artists, and there are some people that get lucky overnight, and but we're not really banking on that. We're really trying to play the long run. So it's been a lot of research, a lot of testing different things out. Anything else to add?
Yeah, it really, it's hard to bank on the socials, so we're doing that as much as possible, but it's constantly changing. So I think our biggest focus, going back to this sort of community aspect of Denver, is just having a rock solid team. Like we are a rock solid team between the two of us. And then also, yeah, we have Elias doing our art and it's just phenomenal. And, we're building a relationship with him where we're sort of using him for everything that we're doing art wise. And he's absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
And we're working with the Keep.
And the rest of the business is on Acoma. So the Keep is kind of a part of this like really cool network there.
Oh yeah,
it's where we did the Wildfire relief show, and we'd love to do more shows like that kind of like bring the community together. Again, especially since Denver just has so much of that. But there's Flipside, which is a guitar shop, and they're amazing. I know Andreas has had some work done with them as well. And then we hosted the event at SRS, which is a rehearsal space that we utilize when we have to rehearse, but they also have an awesome stage kind of venue in the back there. And then right next to them is Blackout Screen Printing, which is where we print our merch. So we're really big on the community. And I think that, that block is kind of like just a really awesome home base for us. That Jeff and Nick were really, kind enough to introduce us to, and all of those business owners and the bands that, frequent that area are just really, really awesome. So we love that spot and that community, and we're looking forward to also expanding that network as well. And especially as we play more shows, I think a big goal of ours is to, continue to build up other local bands in the area. Like we had five bands, I guess, including us at the Wildfire show, and it was really awesome and for a great cause. But we made some new friends and were able to reconnect with old ones in the music scene, and it was a lot of fun. So I think we're definitely trying to hone in on that a little bit more. That's a big goal for us this year as well.
I think that's the biggest part of what's going to come from as we really start to pull out of this pandemic and really start to work together is working as the keyword you put out there, guys, is community. I think that's the biggest part of what makes this scene so great and why it's so much fun to be a part of is, we work together as a community, we can grow this brand to whatever it needs to be. That's why I reach out to local bands for this. It's like, I don't have the largest reach in the world on this podcast, but you know what? It doesn't change the fact that I want to give you guys a voice and a platform and an opportunity to present your project and get someone who's never heard of you guys to take a second and listen. I think that would be awesome. That's, it's the risk we take when we make these endeavors in entertainment. For me personally, like, I would not be here today if it wasn't for the Denver music community. My guitarist and I have been best friends since we were 5 years old. So I'm 35 now. So 30 years of friendship is great. But I've also made friends over the 20 years that I've been in this, guys that are going to be in my wedding, helping with my wedding, guys that have given me opportunities to shoot music videos, work with different projects, tour the country, tour the US. I've had these opportunities because of the community that is the Denver music scene. And I think it's great that you guys are promoting the Acoma block. Like, working with Jeff and Nick was some of the most fun I've ever had. Jeff is easily like one of the most laid back human beings on the planet. Just a little bit, it was good. Let's try my take and we'll see if this one's better. And Nick's just a fully energetic dude. Nick is hyped about every project that comes in there, no matter how big or small. And that block is amazing. I think we've done some work with Flipside in purchasing some pedals and stuff like that over the years. And I know Andrew loved it when they were here full time. Now that they live in Wyoming and they're out there not doing cool things. Yeah, but that block is, if you guys are new to the Denver scene and really want to find a place that's a community, that's a home, hit the Coma Street block and find those places. They're fantastic. I haven't been to SRS yet. I've heard great things about it. We usually practice at Rocket Space because we're all over the city. It's two of us now, so we can go anywhere. But when we were a four-piece, we had one guy in Monument, another one in Lakewood, and then I lived in Highlands Ranch and Sean lived in Aurora. So we had to find a place where we could all get to.
Rocket Space is great. We've worked there as well. But yeah, it's just one of those things. We joke that our, the band name has kind of become this, we say a self-fulfilling prophecy. And ironically, the band name was one of the easiest things for us to agree on ever. And at that point, there were four of us, and we were just I was like, yo, this word is really cool. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, we like it, but what does it mean? I'm like, oh, it means a love returned in full. And we're like, okay, that's cool. Let's go with it. But it's really just become kind of what we're about. And, that sense of community, you do feel that when, you give and you get in return. And there is just this love that we feel both for each other as friends and musicians, but also for the people that we've met along the way. It's been really, really awesome. So it's kind of just, become as much a part of our brand and what we're looking to build as any other part of Redamancy is. But yeah, it's kind of funny how that ended up working out.
And band names are usually the hard part.
I know, it was wild, and nobody had it on Spotify or anything. We were like, all right, I guess we'll just roll with it, and it's been great. No regrets.
We had it super easy starting out because, like Bella mentioned earlier, the first EP that we had was sort of solo songs, and she had done some of those songs and released them previously as in sort of a pop format, and then she was like, oh, I want to do a rock band. And so we just came out of the gate swinging because she had the name, she had the branding, she had the songs. So from formation to the first album was a few months, and we just
we
Jeff
played our first show less than I think 5 weeks after agreeing to be a band together.
Wow. Okay.
And then our first EP was released within that same year. Hasn't been, quite as easy in the past couple years. We've hit a couple
made up
blocks.
That with plenty of setbacks along the way.
Right. Exactly. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned how easy it was for you guys to get your band name. My current project is Gunpowder Empire. Literally, my guitarist was like, I've always wanted to call a band that. And I was like, fuck it. Cool. Let's do it. And it's got a cool name. It's got a cool vibe. I like it. It's the time period in history where the Ottoman Empire transitioned from scimitars and blade fights to gunpowder-based weaponry like cannons and firearms. So I was like, oh, cool. It's got a historical reference to it.
Yeah, totally.
But one of my favorite band name stories was actually told on my other podcast a couple weeks ago. The band Rivals, have you heard of them?
Mm-hmm.
So their guitarist Mickett Woodall is one of my co-hosts.
Nice.
On that show, and he said that they literally put a bunch of names in a hat, and they pulled out that one, and that's the name they went with.
Wow.
Nice.
And I was like, and it wasn't taken. He was like, yeah, man, Rivals is that, I guess, was not a very popular name. They've been around since 2013. So but yeah, he was like, yes, that's how I came up with the name. So I was like, oh man, I wish it was always that easy. Other projects, we've spent weeks. One of the projects I was in, we put our ideas in a name generator, and it came out with the name that we ended up using. I was like, oh, cool, awesome, that works. It sounds cool. One of those moments. But it's always nice when they're the marketing portion of things works out nicely. The other setbacks we can work through eventually, right?
Yeah.
As the world gets back to some semblance of what we can do to really make it work out for us in the long run. And I can definitely say that the name stands out big time. Like it helps to generate. And now that I know what it means, it totally makes sense. Like, yeah, I can totally feel like that's how it's kind of come full circle. So it's really exciting to see. And I cannot wait to see what you guys have in the future. And I'm really looking forward to staying in touch. And you know what? Maybe let's get a show together when the time comes, I'd be down to play.
Sure.
Would love to play Gunpowder Empire.
But this is the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for coming. If you are listening on the audio platforms, all of the band information will be in the description. Please rate and review on Spotify and Apple or wherever you guys are listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, or subscribe if you guys want to check all of that fun stuff out. But right now, as my shilling ends, it's time for you guys to shill yourselves. And right now, Redamancy, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. I mean, the biggest thing is just to stay updated with us. Like, follow us on our socials, stay up to date with our website. We're most active on Instagram. And we both have personal Instagrams as well that you can check out, that we tend to post like behind the scenes content and kind of like sneak peeks of things before they're posted to Redamancy. And then, yeah, I mean, we both have other projects that we kind of work on, but I think Redamancy will forever and always be, kind of like our number one tried and true, like close to our hearts. So yeah, but we'd love to get connected with everyone and listen to Revival, tell us what you think. We've got some really cool stuff under the way, so just stay connected, stay up to date with us. We've got some cool stuff coming your way. Andreas? Go record with Andreas at the keys.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Again, all of their information will be down in the description below or in the description of the podcast. Thank you guys both for joining me tonight. Today, it's a beautiful day here in Colorado. But take care and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
It almost feels like someone else is living my life. 'Cause it almost